Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Tafi. Today once again we are going to talk about Kashmir because the state of Kashmir is the same. It is under siege. Indian forces have amassed their forces there. We have seen the kind of curfew that is there. People have been subjected to torture repeatedly. There are reports of casualties also, not only because of the direct engagement or direct firing of the state forces, but also because of the lack of health care, because of lack of provisions. And that situation continues. Unfortunately, what we have seen so far is that the world community, although it condemns a lot of things, expresses concerns. For example, United Nations human rights body also actually issued a statement, but we haven't seen any convincing effort to dissuade India from continuing what it is doing. And the fear today is especially because Indian state continues the way it does. We know that despite this entire move being illegal as per India's own constitution, India's Supreme Court has been gagged. And that situation is just before you. Indian media has become too craven. And when finally you look at their forces, because India's forces don't have any history of a hard reset, what we have seen so far is astounding, that somehow they have created a post called CDS. The fact is that the sitting army chief is expected to take that position in coming days. And who writes the TORs of CDS? Ajit Doval, the architect of the current Kashmir move. So, because the Indian Army chief is going to retire by the end of this year, and the age limit is 62 years, Ajit Doval can rewrite those terms and make it 64 years. So the army is going to be complacent as well. No reset, no hard reset, no constitutional way out. And India continues this entire charade in front of the world, and the world doesn't seem to have any kind of leverage to control it. We are going to talk about this and more in today's program. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Air Commodore retired Basit Raza Basi Saab. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Zubair Khori, a political analyst and expert on international affairs as well. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Air Commodore Saab, we have seen the concern that is mounting all over the world. But it seems that India's soft power is such, or India's bribing capacity is such, that the world hasn't taken a stance that could actually hurt India and convince its leadership that it is going to pay a price if it continues the siege of Kashmiri people. Your take, sir.
Actually, I see it from two angles. First is that they are just through with a very successful election, and the Western countries, they put a lot of emphasis on democracy. Okay. So they recognize India as a democracy, although...
just to chip in, they had to actually stage Balakot.
True.
They had to stage Pulwama. They had to gag their media that could not see anybody else. They had to actually compromise the Election Commission of India as well.
That's true.
And yet they are democracies.
Unfortunately, these gimmicks have worked, as we have seen in the results of the elections.
Inside India or outside India?
The success actually happened inside, and it was accepted by the world. Nobody objected. It was very obvious. All the economic indicators were down. But for this bogey of Balakot, Modi couldn't have got this much of majority. He might have won by a simple majority. This was the analysis of most of the analysts before the election. So. But he got a very outstanding majority. And that emboldened him. In addition to this, there's one great war going on. That is the war between America and China. And somehow or the other...
Trade war.
Trade war, that's right. And in that, India has a role to play as far as the American thinking is concerned. And that's why
and
all
India
these
has a lot to lose as well.
Exactly.
Because
India,
liquidity either comes from China or America.
Exactly.
Make them fight and they pull their money back.
Exactly. India has always been a fence sitter. This is the first time in its history that they have actually took sides.
Yeah.
Although with caution, they have a great trade relationship with China, despite their strategic relationship which they have signed with America. They have over $100 billion trade with China. So that kind of activity is going on, and that is why I feel this is one reason. And second is that world's attention is actually diverted towards many more issues, and they are not focusing towards this side. Like if you see the British media, they are, I mean, filled up with the mortal combat that the Prime Minister is actually having at the moment. Okay. And then you see the Hong Kong is another issue. And most of the British media is covering that, the major coverages of these two events.
Right.
And if you see on the American side, they have got their own, this 9/11, which is should have been a very somber day for them.
It is a somber day. Yeah.
It is. But look at the chaos that is there. The war which is going on.
But sir, with due respect, none of them actually see 9 to 11 million people incarcerated within their homes, without any provision, without any communication, without any media access. So it is the most tragic part of what is going on. It is the biggest number. Let me bring in Dr.
Let me say that this is not the first time it has happened. It happened when Israel annexed Golan Heights. So there's a precedence of what is being done here. Okay. And in Palestine, it has been going on for years. With due respect,
I understand that we have to actually look at the rationality of things. But with due respect, when we start comparing, it is like we are allowing them excuses, right? We shouldn't.
We are trying to find out what the world is thinking, why they are not coming out clear on this.
Oh,
this is the reason.
Oh, I know. There is a simple reason. The other side is very rich.
That's right. Deep pockets.
Zubair Hori Saab, your takes, especially how important is this UN human rights bodies statement that came out, sir?
Well, that's very important, but I wish that, and we all pray that translates into something practical.
Okay.
As you have pointed out, because the people are suffering. These are real blood and flesh people which are suffering. They have no connectivity, they have no food, they have no medicine, they have no access to their relatives. Not only the Muslims I'm talking about, since the whole of the state of Jammu and Kashmir is under siege for more than a month now, even the people who are not belonging to the Muslim faith and those who have relatives there, they are just clamoring. They just want to have connections with them. Some people have just drawn an analogy with the loss of connection of the Indian satellite just before landing at the moon.
Indian lander, moon lander.
Yeah, moon lander too. And they said that, oh, the head of that program was crying, and the Prime Minister, no other than Prime Minister Modi, was there to offer him shoulder to console him, and he was crying for 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But some of the Indians are saying, just think about my mother who has lost connectivity there. Think about my father, my brothers, my sisters. I'm living outside of the state, and you lost the connectivity of something which is senseless, which has no human body, which has no emotions, which has no sentiments, which does not need to be feeded on. But look at us who have been deprived of all these things.
Now, I'm intrigued by this analogy because, you know, Modi is very media savvy. And it is said, actually, we have seen the videos. There are 2 videos of him treating the ISRO's chief. One where he's mollifying him. The other one off camera, caught by a hidden camera, where he's actually shunting him. Right? ISRO's salaries were cut down before the moon lander was launched.
Yes, yes.
So this is hypocrisy.
This is hypocrisy at its best. But again, the question that you asked, Commodore Saab, that why there is a compassion fatigue? As we are media savvy, and we all see that a lot of things are happening at the moment. Unfortunately, we are in the hands of some of the most extremist right-wing rulers at the moment. Look at across the globe. You have Trump, who may be calling shots at many places.
How many people have he been accused of killing?
No, I'm not saying killing. I'm saying right-wing.
Donald Trump, zero, right?
I'm saying right-wing.
No, but
he is
with
not
due respect, when you are comparing Donald Trump with Narendra Modi, the guy was accused,
yes,
of 2,000 murders.
Butcher of Gujarat, he was nicknamed, and for quite a long time he was nicknamed like that, and even the Americans and the British refused him to give the visa to enter their state. But the problem here is that even against these right-wing extremist tendencies that are prevailing throughout the world, the issues are being erupted.
Right.
Now, if you start from the eastern side, there is an East Timor issue, then there is a Hong Kong issue that is coming up, then there was Rohingyas issues, the Bangladeshi issue, then Assam just recently
and we are going to talk about all of them, Assam especially, because it has 1.9 million people who are going to be stateless, and perhaps they are going to be
They have already been declared.
They haven't been. Still, the legal battle is pending, but they can be incarcerated for life in concentration camps like Nazis led camps. Before we go there, let me go to Altaf Hussain Wani, APHC leader, who is joining us from Geneva. Thank you very much, Wani Saab. Tell us more about this Human Rights Council's statement, sir.
Yes, thank you, Parav Saab. The way the Human Rights Council session started was very encouraging. That Human Rights Commissioner made a very strong statement about Kashmir and asked the government of India to improve its human rights call, to end the lockdown, release the detainees, and also respect the people's view on determining their future. They should be consulted. And along with that, there was a very strong statement by 58 countries. This was a joint statement which was delivered by the Pakistan Special Envoy Ambassador Tamin in Geneva, but it was a statement by 58 countries, joint statement calling for end of the lockdown, curfew, and the atrocities that Indian forces are committing in Kashmir, and end of the communication blockade. Along with that, today we could see that Foreign Minister also made a very strong statement. He criticized the government of India and also sensitizes the international community about what is happening in Kashmir and which could lead to a larger conflict in the region. And it was a very powerful statement on behalf of the Foreign Minister in the Council. Today we could see lots of non-governmental NGOs like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and others taking the floor in the Council, along with the World Muslim Congress and International Human Rights Association of American Minorities. They all took the floor and asked the government of India to end its double standards, don't befool the international community, but to end the lockdown in Kashmir and communication blockade in Kashmir, and don't hide the truth, which is coming out.
That is very significant. But let me ask you about the Indian delegation, because we have seen their statement, inane statement. But do you think that they were under pressure because of all this?
Yeah, they are tremendously under pressure internationally, because what they say, the old narrative that whatever we have done in Kashmir, that is, we had the information that there will be a terrorist attacks and all that. This argument is no more being taken by the international community. The international community is asking the government of India the way the statement from almost 58 countries, joint statement came, and then the international NGOs took the floor during the discussion on High Commissioner's statement. They challenged the government of India, the way what the government of India is telling, the way they presented their case. So government of India, the Indian delegation, was under tremendous pressure, though they had also lobbied for a long here to convince the world that whatever they have done, it is their internal matter and all that. But the statements from the High Commissioner, from other stakeholders here in Geneva, they have categorically told the government of India that India cannot take the decision on Kashmir, and
Wani Saab,
the way Kashmir and lockdown.
This month, Prime Minister of Pakistan is going to address UNGA. That is also important. But what do you think Pakistan can do next, apart from that, to actually sensitize people and move governments into action?
I think I was myself very much critical before that Pakistan should sensitize the international community and they should have an intensive diplomacy on Kashmir. But what I saw in Geneva, the Pakistani diplomats, the ex-diplomats, everybody was here present, sensitizing the international community, meeting different people who are here, telling them the story of Kashmir, telling them what the India has done, telling them this the way the Indian government, the Indian Prime Minister has dealt with the situation so far, and the problem that the people of Indian occupied Kashmir are facing, the problem that the people living on the line of control are facing due to the Indian extensive firing and sniper firing in Kashmir. So I could see a huge diplomatic effort by Pakistan here in Geneva, and I expect the same thing there at New York, that Pakistani diplomacy at New York will sensitize the capitals, and also in New York they will be doing the same thing.
Right. Altaf Hussain Wani, Senior Leader, APSC, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for joining us from Geneva. Let me come back to the studio, and Dr. Zubair Ghori, I had actually stopped you, sir. You were finishing your comment, but I have another question for you now. I understand when you look at the world community's reaction, why they don't seem to have a lever. But what is the end game when it comes to the Indian government? Because I see that their bogey of democracy is being actually called. They have exposed their Supreme Court. Their parliament has been exposed. They are using repressive measures, not only in Kashmir, but even in Assam. And now there is a talk of replicating the same model in Maharashtra. There are many other such stories coming. What exactly is going on in Narendra Modi / Ajit Doval's minds?
Extremism, one word.
Okay.
Hindutva, the second word. Right. The Akhand Bharata, the third word. The whole of this game that they are thinking and they have been preparing and perpetrating for the last few years have been to extend the element of Hinduism in all parts of India, not only in India, but also the adjoining states, including Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even maybe to Afghanistan. So they are planning on to that.
Not maybe. They say Afghanistan is theirs.
Yeah. So this is what they are planning at the moment. I'm not saying they are successful or not. Yeah. They have been treated with a shock of their life by the Kashmiris. They are reacting. Even if there is a lockdown, even if there is a complete barricade of those facilities there, whenever they find some time, they come out in numbers and try to retaliate and challenge. The plan here is that this should be extended into erstwhile Mahabharata to become that much expansive in nature, in geographical nature, and then being a challenging force. But they are forgetting that they are living in a different part of the world now. People have their own new designs. You're talking about Mahabharata,
the book, or you're talking about Mahabharata, the subcontinent, because in India's history, minus the British and Mughals, India never had the state that it has now.
Yeah, but even
it was smaller.
No, they have been bigger regimes.
I can give you maps, sir. Yeah. I'm a student of history.
In Ashoka's time, there were bigger times. There have been some
upper half.
Okay, but I'm not debating about that. But that's what they want.
Yeah.
Everybody involved here should be following the Hindutva mindset and the Hindutva regime. And the way the Muslims are being treated outside Kashmir. They have been molested, they have been killed, they have been tortured, they have been asked to drink the cow urine and dung, eat the dung, and they have been, every other day there is a story against them, and they are leading a very, very miserable life there. Particularly the downtrodden classes. I'm not talking about the well-fed, the top class society of the Indian Muslims. So the point that you are raising, that why the international community is not reacting to this.
No, but that was the old point. The new point is doing something infinitely and thinking that people are going to start actually seeing it as new normal when their own textbooks tell them that democracy is not what is happening in Kashmir. Democracy is not what is happening in Assam or in entirety of India.
Entirety, yeah, that's correct. But the problem is that they want to do it. That's what they have been trying to do it.
Yeah.
And this is our duty and responsibility to keep on telling the world, keep on calling it a bluff, that this
Right.
is not the real democracy that you are looking at.
Right. Air Commodore Saab, will the world eventually let India get away with murder?
It's too early to say that. What's
One
happening?
1.5 months already. How soon it is? I mean, there are people
That's
who
a very
might.
small amount of time in the,
That's right.
period of history.
Okay.
When you are suffering, it's a huge
I
time.
mean, if I'm hungry for 40 days, I'm
It's a
certainly
huge time.
dead.
It's a huge time, it's a lot of time, but in the history books, it's a very small time.
Sir.
What I think is that we are just discussing the situation inside India. An unfortunate fact is that India, the founding fathers saw India as a secular state.
Right.
Mr. Modi has turned it 360 degree. It has become a Hindu state. They may not call it as such, but in fact it is that. When you don't let any minority come up and you are actually subjugating them to the worst form of terror, then you are not a secular state at all.
Right.
And the unfortunate part is that there used to be some saner voices. They are slowly dying. And the best example of it was that Congress was supposed to be a bulwark against that. It has miserably failed. It has crumbled. And look at how the Rahul Gandhi was summarily sent back from Srinagar when he wanted to launch a protest from the combined opposition. In fact, he doesn't have sufficient seats to become the leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
You need 54 seats.
But the man who actually lands in Srinagar, when he is deported, within 2 days he is a different man. Shashi Tharoor, who challenges the entire thing on the floor of the house, within few days, the case against him, accusing him of murder of his own wife, is opened, and then all of a sudden, his entire tone changes.
Chidambaram has been facing that.
Chidambaram is now incarcerated.
This is exactly what I said, that those saner voices have either died or they are dying.
No, but sir, with due respect, will the world let us do exactly the same kind of things?
At the moment,
If we want to do it?
I don't know really the answer for that, but at the moment, the world is tolerating it. Actually,
In
they are
India?
not what the Indians are doing.
Because
they have got their own designs.
Because they are the Brahmins of the international system.
Exactly. The world powers have their own designs in which India plays a part. And so long as they have this hope that India will play that part, they will probably tolerate it.
They want to confront China and want to use India as a proxy, right?
Exactly. That is what their ultimate aim
Why
is.
do they want to confront China?
Because of their economic interest. Because China is an emerging power.
Or
and
is
its
it-
influence is actually slowly, but with slow but sure steps, China is moving forward into Africa, into Asia. And
But
its
India
influence.
keeps on claiming that it is also. The fact is that the West keeps on saying that India is a democracy and China is not.
That's
What
true.
happens when you are trying to play one country against the other and the country you have identified with also loses democracy? Now, which party is good party then?
Actually, at the moment, as far as the Chinese are concerned,
Let
they
me-
have got their own philosophy.
No, sir, with due respect, let me give you a very vulgar example. There was, back in the 80s, there are new reboots as well, but in 80s, there was a movie called Planet of the Apes. The hero of the entire film actually tries to escape and eventually escapes the Planet of the Apes and comes back to Earth, his home planet. And then he learns that there, again, the apes have taken over. So this, decline of democracy, you have to look at that argument. How fluid is that now?
I think there should be a debate, democracy versus legitimacy.
Right.
Because democracy was, at one stage, was synonymous with legitimacy. Because it was felt that any power which is coming to fore through democratic means would take legitimate actions. But India has actually proved that even a democratic government can take very, very illegitimate steps.
By democracy, of course, we are talking about conducting the electoral exercise every 5
over
years.
and over. That's right. That's right. This
But
is what
similar kind of activity takes place in China also, where their entire leadership is decided through internal vote of one party. It is
they have just one party. Here they
so
have
India is one party also.
They have
You
all
just told me. You just told me India is one party system.
That's right. But they have the farce. They put up a show in which there are I think 40 different parties.
Farce like constitution?
Constitution, elections,
and
parties,
election, parliament, judiciary, right?
They have all those fancy names.
And
only.
media, free media.
In name only, of course.
I mean,
they all those number plates, name
you're
plates.
You're telling me Indian media is freer than any authoritarian country's media.
They voluntarily disseminate disinformation.
No, sir, but people are being sacked every day. Day before yesterday, one senior editor of very important channel was actually shown the door. So it is censorship, with due respect.
It is censorship. But the democracy that you are referring to and the democracy that people have been fighting, by the way, democracy is a very modern thing. Okay. There have been empires, and even human rights things is a very modern thing, not more than 200 years old. And even if you take the Treaty of Westphalia as the starting point that has developed and progressed over the last 400 or 500 years. So before that, all over the world, there have been no concept of democracy, there have been no concept of human rights violation, there was all power. These nomenclatures...
So, careful, so you're talking about India, and Narendra Modi says that plastic surgery was there during the Vedic time.
Nonsense has no bounds.
The scientists are not telling you that so and so in the Vedas or Mahabharata was actually a test tube baby.
I have seen a documentary on the History Channel on some of the flying machines that the Indian old authors have been saying, and they're saying that yes, there was a possibility. So this nonsense is having no bounds. It's parading all over the world. Now, democracy that you are talking about, it has certain essences. It is not. It is just maybe a core on the outer core that it has some kind of election or a selection exercise. You may refer to China or may here to India, but democracy in its essence means pluralism, understanding, tolerance, giving way, listening, empathy, coordination, cooperation, and with that, you need to take everybody into consideration and then move forward. This is the real essence of democracy, and if you talk about the democracy and the erstwhile thinkers who gave, there are many, I don't want to name anybody at the moment, they thought about this kind of a society where nobody is suppressed, there is no injustice, there is no censorship as you are referring to. Some of the Indian channels are facing at the moment worst kind of.
I mean, their reporters, their reporters are reporting from Srinagar.
Yeah.
I mean, gunmen are standing next to them, and the same situation has been normalized.
Sham. Only one word, sham.
Yeah.
Sham democracy. So the point here is, but this is not only happening in India, by the way. It's happening at many other parts of the world.
Please don't depress me by comparing the
but India is taking the lead.
Staggering decline of democratic values in India with countries which still are democratic.
India is leading the front by many miles.
Sir, with due respect, in UK, their parliament might have gone totally haywire, but that is democracy. They're fighting for what they believe in. In America, the media might be cuckoo, but it still keeps on fighting.
They are confronting.
No, by cuckoo I mean mad, but it still is fighting
for
their own causes.
Yes.
In Pakistan also, there are people who disagree with the dominant narrative and they're constantly challenging. Where is India's alternative, voice?
There's no, hardly any. There are alternative voices. They are slowly and gradually, one by one, are being silenced. Some of the names that we have already mentioned. There may be certain people, conscientious voices they are there. But there's a state power. That state power is an absolute power, and the people who have been suffering.
State power or state power?
No, it's not state power. The state
power.
Because
I read a lovely long article on Mukesh Ambani and how he deploys ORF and its dialogues to actually manipulate the entire system.
No, ORF is basically a system given by Indian's Ministry of External Affairs. But that has been funded by RAW.
Okay? No. Mukesh Ambani's money
money may be involved.
financially owns it.
Money may be involved in some kind of a funding.
And one of its dialogue actually employs Ajit Doval's son.
I know that. I've been part of that Raisina dialogue. I've traveled there twice to represent Pakistan's voice.
I thought
was
that,
there
that
in
you are
Delhi.
saying that you have been part of ORF.
I've been part of the Raisina dialogue, and I have contributed there, and I have presented Pakistan's voice there. Perhaps one of the loner voices. I was the lone ranger there in the surroundings of so many wolves. The point here is that these are the voices, as you are very right here in making this voice heard, that if such a big kind of a democracy is crumbling under the very might of this Hindutva, then this can affect the whole world. This is what we are facing at the moment, and this can transcend the boundaries and go into the eastern side of the continent and even into the Europe and America, because Indian diaspora is everywhere. So this kind of a tendency needs to be stopped. Somebody should cry halt.
To the credit of Indian diaspora, especially those who are in media, they have done a great job.
Because they are not under the pressure of the state.
Yeah, but they have done an inspiring job of actually revealing the truth. I mean, every other report that you see in the Western press, look at the bylines, with the exception of Barkha Dutt or a couple of people like that, who are Manchurian candidates. Whenever the situation comes, they actually flip and go scurrying towards the fascists. Others are not doing that.
Yes,
they are very conscientious.
They are not very
so you have to give credit to the secular diaspora of India as well, which might be actually putting up a fight. But sir, let me paint a very horrible picture. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, one day, Narendra Modi actually stands up and decides that instead of Ashok Chakra in their flag, they are going to have a swastika. And they are going to call themselves Nazi Republic of India. And then they say that we have nukes and we are going to attack other countries, otherwise surrender. Do you think the world still will have a handle on them?
Actually, at the
I know
moment,
it is hypothetical.
I know.
But you have to answer.
Jog my mind. Actually, at the moment, they are exactly that, without the swastika. Their philosophy, their actions, they are all that of Hitler. But
RSS used that swastika in
That's
many of
right.
their campaigns.
Exactly.
Excuse me, RSS in its name has SS. Come on. What else do you need?
Yeah.
And Golkar and those guys, Himmler is similar to Himmler. I think there is a wave of rightist parties. You know, the rightist extremism is actually flourishing in the world at the moment. We have recently seen its rise in Germany, where this party, the AfD, it got a majority over there. So
in Poland,
that's right.
the right-wing
all these
party.
countries,
In France,
France,
UK.
exactly. So Modi is actually riding this wave, which is actually world over.
Sir, with due respect, I mean, carts and horses, eggs and chicken, with due respect, it all started after 2014, after Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India. And do you know what happened? Steve Bannon, the famous Steve Bannon, actually has very, very close contact with the Indian establishment. And there are people, right now what happened, Geert Wilders was in America or meeting American leaders. And he is one of those voices who were advocating for India. So there might be Indian soft power behind all that negativity as well. You never know.
This is a complex phenomena. What's happening is really
It's long
it's
extension,
mind-boggling.
quite a long extension
And,
that you are trying to
$50 billion worth of one man, Mukesh Ambani. And
he's not putting them all in
do you
politics.
know who came to his daughter's marriage? Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Umpteen other people. Head of Google, head of Microsoft.
Actually, this brings a point.
This is another dimension, the head of Google, yes.
And their success, whatever they are achieving, is because their government is backed by their private sector, private parties.
Backed or owned?
Whatever you say, they are
Crony
in cahoots.
capitalists can own you.
But here in Pakistan, we expect the government to do everything.
Right.
We keep talking ad nauseum that government should do this, government should do that. Where are the private people? Where is their initiative? And here is a point. You talked of Indian diaspora. I sometimes wonder, we have great people in the United States, doctors, engineers, and very able people. But we don't have a Nikki Haley coming out of it. We don't have a Kamala Harris coming out there. Why not? Because when you go from making big money, when you go into public service, you actually lose your emoluments. Like Sajid Javed in England, he was getting £3 million a year. He says he had a fabulous job as a MD of Dutch Bank. But when he decided to come into public service, he lost 98% of his emoluments.
Right.
As a public servant, he's getting just 2% of that.
Right.
So this is a decision.
No, but Nikki Haley became Nikki Haley, and rest of the politicians, pro-India politicians, became what they are after you, sir, we, sir, dropped the ball after 9/11. Before that, tell me how many Indian Americans were in their parliaments.
That's
It
true.
all starts with 2006.
That's true. But I want to leave this point to our viewers and everybody who is listening, that our people who are abroad, our diaspora, they should think of going into public service.
All right.
They may have to lose financially initially, but look at the prestige, look at the change that you can bring, what help you can extend to your country. These poor Kashmiris, we'll keep shouting for them. Our throats will be sore, but not many people will hear from us. But if there's somebody sitting
Yes.
in American Congress
Yes.
or in British Parliament, their voice will be heard.
No,
So
sir,
we
with
have
due
to
respect,
create these voices.
Sir, with due respect, here is a humble question.
Sir.
Why should anybody sitting in their parliament should be voicing our concerns? They'll be voicing their concerns, right?
Let's
There's a
hope.
I don't-
Kashmiri, there's belonging. There's one Australian member of parliament
Yeah,
who's a
today
Kashmiri.
they spoke,
Yeah, they
right?
spoke about it.
I
And
know.
that voice flashed all over the world.
But here's the thing. Kashmir is a legitimate concern right now. And not only, 74 years, nobody cared about what was happening in Kashmir. Right
the
now, the
point
concern
Kumar
is
Sir
not.
was making
Right now,
that-
the concern is not Kashmir. Right now, the concern is India, which might have gone rogue. That's why they're paying attention.
Let's give the devil the due share. The Indian diaspora have contributed a lot in international proprietary rights, the knowledge production, the intellectual well-being, the growth of the human mindset. Unfortunately, the Pakistani diaspora or the Pakistanis per se, they have been seriously lacking behind. Let's accept our mistake in the contribution of the knowledge production of the world. And that also includes the whole of the so-called Ummah.
Right. And
You are
that
referring to-
somehow.
you are referring
Video-
to
hang
Google
on. I'm glad that you raised this point. That somehow diminishes the right of Kashmiris to be
I'm not
human
saying-
beings.
I'm not saying that. You are talking of pure idealistic world. I am saying if there are certain rights and if there are certain people who can raise their voices, then there has to be some equal animals and some are more equal.
Right.
If you want to become more equal, you have to raise your head.
Right.
Even if you have to raise your heels as well. You have
So
to
human-
contribute.
So human rights don't matter.
Human rights do matter, but you have to raise your voice. The point here is,
So you have
the
to
Kashmir
be-
is not the only issue in the world. There is the crisis of Yemen.
So you
There is
have
a-
to work for your bread, and then you have to
No, no,
work
no.
for your
Of course
human
both.
rights.
Of course
Otherwise,
both.
you don't
Of
automatically
course
get your
both.
human rights.
No, it's not a ideal world that we are living in.
No, but we are human beings.
No, we
With
are
due
human
respect,
beings.
We have fought wars to preserve human rights.
No. This still we are,
Sir, I'm
we are
coming to you,
far
sir.
behind.
Actually-
Still we are far behind from that ideal
I mean-
situation. Let me complete. Kashmir is not the only issue. There is the issue of Uyghur Muslims. There is the issue of Yemen
don't
Muslims.
care about them.
There
I
is the
don't
issue
care
of
about them.
Syrian
I
Muslims.
care
There is
about
issue
my
of
country.
Jordanian Muslims.
Sir, I'm sorry.
There is the issue of Palestinian Muslims.
excuse me,
There is
which
the issue of
country-
Sudanese Muslims.
Sir, with due respect, you must be a national of a country. Which country is that?
I am national.
So
but I'm
let us
saying
talk about
about
that country.
about
Sir,
the
what
world
do you want?
community.
Yeah, but
They are
with due
concerned
respect,
about.
We
They're-
keep on, I mean, I love philosopher kings, but with
No,
due
you are
respect,
making
when
philosophy king.
when we
I'm
keep
giving
on
you the real
confusing
world.
people. Sir, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I just only wanted to say that the basic instinct is to earn the bread. That's right. But once you have earned that, then at least there should be some room to work and fight for human rights.
No, of course.
That's
But
the Maslow's theory.
I understand. But why do we keep on cutting slack to the world by finding our weaknesses, not seeing their weaknesses? I mean, this is, with due respect, Hong Kong has been going on for quite some time. You call China, West calls it a repressive regime, right? It does. And yet, they haven't cracked down on the people of Hong Kong the way your darling India, that is a democracy, is squeezing hard the people of Kashmir. You can't even hear their voices. So who is the bad guy here? China or India?
Actually, Chinese have a lot of patience. They kept on telling England for 150 years that this belongs to us, give it to us.
Right.
They never fired a bullet. And one day, the British said, okay, it's yours, take it.
Yeah.
So this is a different set of philosophy. These are impetuous people, the Indians. They want to do everything quickly. And they are actually intoxicated by the power they have got. It has got into their heads.
India is not, America is not intoxicated, Europe is not, China is not, India is.
India is, that's right. I also want to raise a point here that look, there are always short-term steps and long-term. I was talking of the long-term steps. That our children whom we send abroad, we just tell them that you have to make big money. We never tell them that you have to do public service also. I think this is the message we should give our children, so that they, after they have gathered sufficient wealth, they have become wealthy, then they switch over from making money to public service.
Right.
And at the moment, we are very disturbed because this 370, abrogation of 370, at the moment was only an academic exercise. The status of Kashmir was same before that. They were still under Indian occupation. But it didn't hurt us. No. Because we thought that it is a separate entity in our minds.
It might not hurt us, sir, with due respect. Let me tell you how it becomes my personal problem. My wife is a Kashmiri. She has relatives on the other side. And she is hurting since then.
Sir, you let me complete my argument. What I was trying to say, that prior to this incident, how many papers reported an incident in Kashmir? Kashmir had gone out of our discussions.
Right.
When we were students, I remember there was a guy who was a Shaheed in Kashmir, and we offered Ghaibani Namaz Janaza. This I remember so clearly, that anything happened, we students, nobody told us. We would on our own come out on streets.
So we have to be driven, right?
But since last 10, 15 years, Kashmir has gone out of our lives.
Our lives.
And it has luckily come back.
Okay.
It's okay. At a great cost.
For past 15 years, it was part of my life, though. I've just given you personal
I am talking
anecdote.
of the public expression.
Right, sir.
Was there in papers? Was there on were there so many talk shows on television?
I just wanted to lighten the mood by bringing in my personal anecdote.
Sir, the topic is very serious.
No, of course. Sir, while I understand that you're talking about working on our diaspora, our youth, our capacity of our people, India has a diaspora which is not very happy with Indian government. And after 9/11, because Pakistan keeps moderating itself, and we have fought war inside our own country, and we have lost a lot as well, and everybody is quite sanguine now. Do you think that Pakistan should try to actually reach out to the Indian diaspora as well?
That can be a good option, reaching them out and touching their conscience, touching their emotions. That this is what your government have been doing, and this is what, consider them as human beings, consider them as your people just like you are, consider them yourself to be there and then facing this situation. But let me just bring in two perspectives.
Sir, we are just closing at the very end of the program.
The first perspective is perhaps the Hindu Indians are thinking it's an opportunity in 1,000 years to have that kind of control over whole of India after the attack by Shahabuddin Ghori in 1091.
Right.
After that, there was a whole empire from the Muslims and then the British Empire. And now they have got that.
So you just actually talked about one abstraction, the Hindu India.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what do you mean by Hindu India?
The Hindu India means the India dominated, controlled and powered by Hindus.
Hindus or Brahmins?
Hindus. Everybody Hindu.
Shudras are, Dalits are also Hindu.
They may not be considered as a part of the unity. They are not considered.
So you get it.
But even
only
the Muslims,
even
the
only
Muslims are
7%
treated.
of India is Brahman-led.
According to their religion, even the Muslims are treated lesser than the Shudras.
Right. We are called untouchables.
Untouchables. So
The
they are
Malichas.
Malichs. They are the Malichs.
Right. On that sobering thought, I have to conclude the program. Dr. Zubair Hawari, thank you very much for your time. Air Commodore retired Basit Raza Basi sir, thank you very much for your time as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. The discussion has to continue. But there is such a time when you think that you are at your wit's end and you keep on making an argument that you see very clearly. Day and night are very clear things, right? But then you realize other people do so too, and they don't want to talk about it. And that is frustrating because they were the people that taught you what is day and night. For example, I didn't know about democracy coming from our textbooks. It came from the Western textbooks. I didn't know much about human rights. It didn't come from our own text. I mean, we are a very young nation, 70 years old. It all came from the West. And now the West has forgotten the meanings of that, or maybe the people in India that are being suppressed are children of some lesser god. Maybe they are not human beings. That's why nobody wants to see them. It is important right now. The West and the world that gave us democracy, the idea of democracy, has to decide whether it still wants to believe in its own core values or it only wants to believe in money. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.